walked across the floor and I saw that they actually had finished the ceremony and turned around to leave when a man jumped up on the reference desk and started shouting that he had a gun and that he had a bomb and that he was going to take hostages. And he told everybody not to move. I was about 4 feet in front of him, and he pointed the gun at me and said, "You, go in to the room." I turned, started walking to the room. I said a prayer. Why? You know, it's one of those prayers, a why prayer. The answer came. It was a very distinct voice. The answer came, "You are needed there."
I was the training lieutenant for the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office. The day that I was working there, I was dressed in casual clothing. It was on a Saturday. It was normally my day off. A young man came in yelling, "Is anyone here?" And I went out to see what the problem was, and he told me there was a hostage situation going on across the courtyard in the Salt Lake City Library. As I approached on the second floor, I observed a gentleman who told me to get out of there now, that there was a man with a gun in the other room. I told him I was with the sheriff's office. He also had a letter in a manila envelope, and he said he gave me this to mail. My purpose for going in the room was to be an insurance policy. I had a weapon on me, and if I were to take that envelope in there and get him to think or distract him for just a moment, then I might have an opportunity to take some action. As I approached, I came in on an angle so that I could see him gradually. I saw him sitting behind a table. He had the gun in his hand and the bomb on the table. He saw me and turned the gun at me. So as I waved the envelope at him, I said, "What did you want me to do with this?" And he said, "I want it mailed." I raised my hand and said, "Look, I don't know what's going on here, but you're scaring the hell out of me with that gun. What do you want me to do?" He pointed over in the corner and said, "Go over there and sit down."
After the doors were tied shut and he had us all settled and seated down, he told me to go around and take everyone's jacket. The man who had come in last, he looked at me and he just kind of shook his head a little bit. I just gave him a little bit of a nod and walked on by and took everybody else's jackets but his.
I turned my body, the weapon side, further away from the hostage taker and was able to pull my shirt tail out and cover the weapon. After my weapon was covered, I dropped the jacket. As we pulled into the table, and he had a moment or two, he passed out copies of the hostage demand letter. Apparently, he had served time in the military. When I read the letter and some of the off-the-wall comments that he'd made in there, and there were several that concerned me, one of which is that he would release remaining hostages. That told me that he planned on killing someone.
He asked me to go and check and see who was out there. I saw a police officer, their head showed up over the edge of the escalator. When I told him, he got angry. So the next time that he asked me to do it again, I lied. I just told him there wasn't anybody out there, though I could see there was people in a couple of different areas.
Sue was digressing because of the lack of insulin, and she was laid on the table. And at one point she woke up and she looked over frantically in my direction. And I wanted to calm her, so I leaned forward and put my hand on her shoulder and said, "Don't worry, everything will be okay." When that happened, my shirt came up, and the gentleman sitting on the end of the table saw my weapon. He looked at me and said, "Pull your shirt down." I assume at that point he figured I must be a cop.
He periodically, with his dead man switch, would play with it. He added a couple of pieces of tape because I guess in holding it, one of the wires had come loose, so he taped it back.
He saw me looking at that, and he got kind of mad at me. He said something to this effect: "Mr. Prescott, you're making me nervous." The longer the situation went, the more angry, the more volatile he became. After the negotiator called the third time, he was obviously more upset. And he yelled and screamed at the negotiator and basically told him, "Don't call back." He said, "We're going to draw straws to see who is going to be killed." And I knew I wasn't going to let him execute someone while I sat in the room with a gun. He's got the gun and the bomb up on the table, and he glanced down like this to see where the knife was, and it was down on the floor next to him. And when he looked down, that was my window of opportunity. So at that point, I had to stand and spin, and I yelled, "Sheriff's office," hit the floor. I yelled that as loud as I could because it was just incumbent that everybody get below the plane of that table in case that bomb went off. He looked up at me and then moved the gun on me, and I was looking down the barrel of that .45 caliber semi-auto. I shot several times and hit him in the chest. I literally knocked him off of the chair. Things became very chaotic at that point. That was the time where I didn't know why the bomb hadn't gone off.
About 2 feet away from my head, there is Draper laying on the floor. He's reaching toward his gun, and Lloyd tells him not to move or he's dead. Draper said, "I'm a dead man already."
When he finally had to repair the dead man switch, unknowingly he put too much duct tape on and made it too thick for it to close and the wires to make contact.
Lloyd's my hero. I am ever so grateful that he chose to join us. I think that had he not been there, at least one of us would have been shot.
I think the reasons that I survived is because I was lucky and I did the right things tactically. And I think if you do the right things, that it will pay off for you, and that's what I did.